I'd like to call to order the Parks Board meeting for Monday, June the 28th. Pledge allegiance, please. I think I'll do that since I'm louder than most of you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dang, that was my idea, too. What an idiot. I should step down right now. Idiot. God. Do we have any citizens' comments?
No, sir. I just checked. There are no citizens' comments for this evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I will accept a motion to approve the minutes. Mr. Pike, second, Mr. Bennett. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Obviously not. Take a minute here. I need a motion to add a Tri-Lax special events application to the agenda. So, Mr. Pike first, Mr. White second. Any discussion on that? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Good job by you guys.
Can I get who was the first and the second there?
Absolutely not. So, Mr. Pike Mr. Pike and Mr. White.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome, sir. This kid about to know. All right, under old business, park projects update, Mr. Gilly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. Inline hockey project is continuing. We had a couple issues with soil, unsuitable soils, but those got resolved. We're getting ready to install the footers. Everything continues to move on as scheduled, hopefully for opening by October, November-ish. We had some good news, and might have to get Jeremy to kind of help me with this, possibly, not to put him on the spot, but Jeremy and Trevor in our maintenance department have been working with us to make some improvements to the disc golf course at Sanders Ferry. And we received some good news that the Music City Disc Golf Association has given us a grant to replace all the baskets at the disc golf course for this year. So that's going to be a welcome addition. We'll be able to make some other improvements. That's a part of our parks that needs some attention, and we're glad to give it to them. Also, within the budget for the 2022 fiscal year, we will be doing a complete renovation of the Memorial Park fountain, the big one right there in front of the tennis courts, with help from the Rotary Club, and also completing construction on restrooms at Rugby. Those are two projects that were funded in the budget that the Board of Mayor and Aldermen did, and we appreciate that, and we'll be getting to work on those as soon as we possibly can. So that's my project update.
Thank you very much, Bob. Talking about disc golf, I'm a fat guy, so I decided I was going to start walking again over at the park. Hadn't been over there in probably a year or two. I was walking down one of the roads and I got hit right in the back with a frisbee.
Should probably be more
so
careful.
That told me that God don't want me to walk in there. So, of all the places to get hit by a frisbee. Okay, under new business, discussion of August, November, and December Parks Board meetings.
We need to go back to old business, please, sir.
Oh, goodness, I was hoping to miss. Sorry about that, guys. Under the old business, I'm sorry, review of the athletic policy and facility use agreement. That's quite a book, I'll tell you. Mr. Gilly?
Yes, sir. At the direction of the mayor, we have revisited all of our policies. We've got several things in your packet on pages 7 through 46. I know you all have reviewed all these, and we also reviewed them with the athletic committee, who made several suggestions. You all also have at your desk kind of a highlight of, it's 4 pages, 2 pages front and back. You all had these, but just in case anybody just wanted to get the nuts and bolts breakdown of items that had been added over the past few years by the Parks Board, or some things that the athletic committee suggested. Our task here tonight is probably to make a motion to recommend to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen that all of these items be approved. If you have any questions about any of them, I'll go over the items that have been added over the years or suggestions. Nonprofit documentation. We feel like that's important, that each of our groups that use the park give a status of their nonprofit. Insurance coverage submitted annually. Financial records and auditing. This gives us some teeth to holding people accountable financially. We were already doing that anyway, but this kind of gives board approval to do that. Okay. The actual use agreements are highlighted. Background checks, which you all have approved for all head coaches and assistant coaches, makes that a actual part of the use agreement, as a CPR and AED training and coaches training. Incident reporting, that has not been a real problem, but that's something that we want to make sure that each league and group is responsible for doing. Just to give you an example, we had a situation a couple weeks ago where a spectator was asked to leave the park and we weren't notified until 2 or 3 days later. Something we need to know about pretty immediately. Talks about park improvements, disciplinary issues. If anybody has any questions, or if Dallas, if you want to add anything to that, these are many things that we all have approved before my time and during my time here, that we want to get the approval of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, so that if a league comes back to us and says, the Parks Board can't hold us accountable for that, we can say it's not just the Parks Board, it's the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Mr. Long, you have anything to add to that, sir?
Sure. One of the main changes to with this and what we would look to request is moving forward starting in January. Every league would submit their facility use agreement, their insurance, and their nonprofit documentation along with their financial report, and they would come before the Parks Board, and the Parks Board would approve of that for the year. Currently, they're just sending the use agreements to the staff, and they're doing that twice a year. This would be for the full year, but this would come before the board when they're doing their full year financial reports as well. That's probably the big main change from how we're doing things now to what we're looking to do moving forward.
I think when we vote for this, just to cover our bases, we ought to vote for it on the existing and the notes added approval list there, so that we don't have any problems with that.
So basically, all of the notes that on this 4-page report is direct from the manual. So
Gotcha.
all the verbiage on this is the exact same. Another thing I failed to mention is the violations and terminations section on page 20. Currently, we don't really have a process if a league were to violate the terms of the athletic manual. So now this has something in writing that gives a pretty detailed process of what that would look like, coming from the staff to and to you all, the Parks Board.
Okay, the reason I said that, I was married a long time. I don't like to leave loopholes. So.
I think the best way to do that would be for whoever that makes the motion, if it is to approve, would be to make a motion to recommend to BOMA that the athletic policy be approved with the suggestions of the athletic committee and the park staff included.
Perfect.
One other comment to make. So we're basically just talking about the athletic manual here. That's the document with all the new additions and changes. There's several other policies that we have. Coaches' background checks, concussion policy, sudden cardiac arrest, Safe Sports Act policy. All of that has been in place, and nothing has changed in that. So,
Thank you. Who would like to make a motion to approve? Mr. Head, would you make that motion, sir?
I'll make a motion that we approve the athletic manual and the additions that the athletic committee made to approve it and send it to BOMA for approval.
Mr. Head, make the motion. Mr. Pike, second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Now we'll get to the other stuff. Thank y'all for working on that. That's impressive right there. And I know that the reason I think that we're able to do that is that, boy, it is really, I read quite a bit of it, and it's really detailed. So it's almost like a major league thing. We can go back, somebody has a problem, go right back to it. So thank you guys for that. Discussion of August, November, December Parks Board meeting, Mr. Gilly.
Thank you. There were, in August, November, and December, we kind of run into this every year with different conflicts, and we want to try to head this off at the pass and get everybody on the same page on the front end. We would like to suggest that we move the August meeting to August 30th, the November meeting to get it off Thanksgiving week to November 15th, and the December meeting to December 20th to avoid the week between Christmas and Thanksgiving.
Discussion.
We would need a motion from you all to add those dates.
You guys want to take a minute to check that out?
The reason for the August date, Dallas can explain that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Andy and I will be in Pigeon Forge for a TRPA conference that day.
Yes, we'll be at the Dixie
Yeah.
Stampede.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's all we need to say about that.
I make the motion
Miss-
for change of the dates.
Mr. Bennett made the motion. Who? Mr. Golden, second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Special Needs Resource at Mary's Magical Place, Carol and Rachel. Carol and Rachel, you're on. Push the little red button or the little button in the center. Gotcha. State your name if you don't mind.
Hi, Carol Ernst with Mary's Magical Place.
And Rachel McCauley with Mary's Magical Place.
Hi, guy. Go right ahead, ma'am.
Okay, so when we were working on Mary's Magical Place several years ago, we kept trying to get numbers. What are the real numbers? How many people are affected? What's available to people? Trying to, get our word out to groups with special needs so that they could let us know, we could tell them that this is coming. And there was never a database or one place to go to get those numbers, those groups, and everything. And so recently it's come up again, and what we had planned a while back was to have an event at the playground to get all those groups together. And so recently it's come up again that with this situation, that there's a more need out here than right now that we're able to provide our community. And so we have planned with, not Rachel and I, it's a large group of people who, from different special needs organizations, and a couple of the aldermen, to have an event at the playground that we're going, it's free for participants, it's going to be free to the organizations or businesses this first year for sure, and have them come out and have a table set up, and that way let the community know that this is what Hendersonville really does have to offer, because a lot of people don't know about different organizations such as Sumner Special Housing or Peer Place or Project 22, Borderless Arts. The list goes on and on when you start really trying to look at things, but people don't know about them. And so we're hoping that this will create that awareness and just give a better opportunity for our special needs community.
So here are some examples. The Therapy Center shows interest. They are a business, but they won't be selling anything. United Cerebral Palsy, they showed an interest. They do exchange program of equipment and so on. Let's see, Mobility Works, they adapt equipment, they have vans and everything. They've shown interest, and the list is really getting bigger. The group talked about 20 or more, because you figure half may be able to come. Looking at you already said the inline hockey set, if possible. It'd be about 2 hours long, hour to set up, hour to take down. Fall's better for the weather, and that's about it.
So ideally, we would like to set up where Rink 1 is or was on the inline hockey rink. The city is working with their schedule to find out when actually is a good date for us to do that. So the date is not set in stone. Also, some of that involves, the hockey rink moving. We want, obviously, it to be cooler out there because that is not covered.
we're really not talking about extra things like, music, because that's overstimulating, so we're not talking about that. We have discussed the mounted police and the horses, where the kids can see that, and so I guess that's about it, and we just see how it goes this year. It would be for new families, have special needs children, they don't know what's out there, and, other family members and friends and so on, so just see how that goes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I can answer a few other things here. So this event will actually technically be a city event. It'll fall underneath the city's insurance. We have 3 or 4 members of our staff on the committee, a couple aldermen on the committee, as well as the Mary's Magical Place ladies and some other people in the city. So anyways, we are still trying to narrow down a perfect date around hockey. Like they mentioned, we have a couple of options, but we're basically just seeking the green light to move forward with planning this, so we can get back together as a committee and finalize a date, and then we can start reaching out to these different organizations to be part of the event as well.
Any questions? I'll accept a motion to accept this as is. Mr. Golden's first. Mr. Head was second. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? I can't imagine we'd say no. But, and quite frankly,
Thank you.
Thank you.
someone would get hurt if they did. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you for coming. Okay, new park department logo. Mr. Gilly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As part of our efforts in the Parks Master Plan to kind of update some things across the board, we've worked internally as a staff and with a local company here to kind of do a little refresh and a rebrand on our logo, try to get some updates that allow us a little flexibility. Page 51 in your packet. There's a couple of examples, I hope. Yes, sir. One good thing that I like about this logo is it still encompasses the lake. It gives us a more modern update. It also gives us the ability in any of those circles to exchange those items for different sports or different activities. To give you an example, this logo will be on the columns at the inline hockey project, but it will, instead of a baseball player, it will have a hockey player. So that's going to be good. So if we were to use this logo in the soccer complex, we could replace the baseball player with a soccer player. I think the city as a whole is kind of looking at doing a little rebrand, and from what I understand through the Economic Development Office. But we wanted to make sure and get your all's approval on this as we start to kind of leak it out and add it to different things. You'll still see the goose around on some of the logos. Maybe that'll become the vintage logo from now on. But I think this is a good thing for a department. We just wanted to make sure that you all blessed it and give us the ability to move forward with it.
Can't help but notice that one of the circles doesn't have kickball in it. But
Well, I mean, we can do, if we make kickball championship shirts, we can put a kickball player in there with that, and you can be the model even.
no,
Or frisbee. Apparently, you need to be the frisbee golf model.
can't get my leg up high enough to get the top of the ball.
If anybody has any questions, I'll take them.
As long as the frisbee looks like it's hitting somebody in the back of the head.
I think we'll stay away from that.
We're just being so critical here. All right, I will need a motion. Mr. Golden? I need to approve. Mr. Pike? Mr. Bennett, second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, obviously not. Thank you again, Andy. This is pretty good, except for the kickball thing. Okay, Parks Master Plan. Kimley Horn?
Mr. Chairman, Alicia Ely is here from Kimley Horn to present this to you all. You all have a hard copy in front of you, and you've all been emailed the digital copy. This has been to the Public Works Committee. It will be at BOMA on July 13th. Your task tonight, I guess, if you so choose, would be to make a motion to recommend to BOMA the adoption of the master plan. And then I'll turn it over to Alicia, who's worked really hard with our staff to get to this point that we're at today.
You're working under an alias. That's good. You go right ahead, man.
All right, am I good? Awesome. Well, thank you all very much for this opportunity. I know we were before you a couple of months ago for a part of our SWOT analysis and intro to the project, and so hopefully you'll see a lot of that input in here. Just highlighting, again, you've got, I think, over 100 pages before you to read and hopefully adopt this evening, but just highlighting those elements here, if you would, tonight. So essentially, this is our table of contents, but really important to understand the amount of work that staff has done, and we've really just been here to facilitate it to inform ultimately the implementation and the recommendations. And so you've got, we reviewed existing plans that the city has worked on over the years and how that informed our plan. We looked at the demographics, not only today, but also in the next 10 years. This is per TDEC requirements. You'll hear me reference that a couple of times tonight. Mr. Gilly and staff is submitting on a TDEC grant for park money, and as a requirement of that this year, the first time ever was to have an updated master plan. And so these sort of go hand in hand, and so we wanted to make sure we checked all the boxes for what they were looking for, and one of those is having a 10-year plan. So we looked at what the demographics of the city look like 10 years from now as well. We had a very large and successful community engagement. A piece of that was speaking with you all as a part of the Parks Board for the SWOT analysis. We had an online survey, and we visited all the existing facilities as well. That feeds into that next bullet, the facility inventory and analysis. We had to evaluate, again, before we can recommend what you need in the future, we need to understand what we have today. So we spent some time doing that. We did an exercise called benchmarking. We looked at peer communities, staff and ourselves worked together to identify some peer communities, both within the state and nationally, to understand similar populations, what other people are doing, and how Hendersonville compares, and some goals based on that. We have some staffing recommendations. We also assessed existing programs, another TDEC requirement, understanding what's provided, and we'll dig into that. And then ultimately, financial analysis and revenue strategies. How do we make this work moving forward? So the existing plans, again, I won't read through all these, and apologies for the font not working this evening. Apparently we made a poor font choice on the slides here. But we went back as far as 1975, understanding what the department was wanting and the growth that's occurred in the city. We actually worked on the ADA self-evaluation and transition plan. That really played a piece into recommendations as well. Land use, transportation, Hendersonville Horizons plan, et cetera, really helped inform sort of the work that's been done to date, and building upon that moving forward. Demographics, we looked at the population of the community, again, not just today, but also 10 years from now. We looked at age really plays a really important part, as you all well know. The population age and how we provide for recreation really relies on that. Employment, education, housing, digital access, again, from a marketing standpoint for the department, how many people have access to computers or internet versus not, and then ultimately income. And so just one of the charts that's featured in the full report there, you can see, and I'm sure y'all feel and hear about the growth in Hendersonville that everybody's experiencing here, documented there. And feel free to ask questions, please, during this. A major piece of the community engagement, again, we're here working with staff to facilitate the city's plan, and so a key piece was just listening. During COVID, obviously, it was a little tricky, but you can see one of the screenshots there. We facilitated, I think, over 14 civic group interviews where we got on Zoom and we invited the civic groups that use the parks. Again, a key part of all of this to understand what's working, what's not working, how can we improve on it as a part of this plan, and so just listed those there. As you're, I'm sure, not surprised, but a lot of positive feedback regarding staff and all of their interactions, but also did have some room for growth and some suggestions, which was critical too. And then we sent out the SWOT analysis. Appreciate anybody that responded and helped with that. But again, just understanding what are the current strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for the department. A lot of positive things, which is always great to hear. There was nothing major in our eyes, fundamentally that was wrong or need to be built on, but really building on those kind of weaknesses and opportunities on moving forward over the next 10 years was really important for us. The survey, the public survey was very critical. We often get asked how many people responded. You all had almost just shy of 2,000 responses. And the next question we usually get is, how does that compare? What's the expectation? And my response prior to you all was 500's great. 500 is success in our eyes. And again, kudos to staff to getting the word out. Again, back to those 14 civic organization interviews. When we talked to all of those folks, obviously all of their league players and all of their email lists were sent this as well, which ultimately helped feed this. But we've never seen a number like this. So very important. Again, it's quantity, but it was quality data as well. So that's important to note as well. We asked questions regarding demographics just to make sure we didn't have folks sending it to their family in Florida or any other, we wanted to make sure we were generally getting response that reflected Hendersonville as a whole, and we were. We asked about current facility and amenity usage. What are people using right now versus future? What would they like to see? And then just general perception. What, again, it's almost like this SWOT analysis that y'all responded to, but just, what is it? How do you respond? And I think the most important thing to note in the survey is just the variety of how we asked questions. It wasn't just multiple choice. Let me just hurry up and do this and help staff look great, that we got a really high response. It was a variety of open-ended questions that you'll see a couple of responses to, multiple choice, ranking 1 to 5. So again, just that variety and the quality of data was very important throughout the process. So this one on the left, you'll see there, we asked what types of facilities would you like Hendersonville to add or expand. And so you'll see a lot of words up there, but the bigger the word, the more often that was responded. And again, this was one of those that was open-ended. So it wasn't multiple choice, hey, just click on as many as you can in the 2 minutes that you're going to take to respond to a survey. This was, you had to type in truly what you thought, those words. And so the more responses we got, the bigger the word becomes. So you see a lot of those, even from far away. You can see, pool, dog park, mountain bike trails, indoor tennis, really rose to the top. Again, this is just folks responding open-ended to what they wanted to see in the future. And then the one on the right is, what could the city do to increase the number of times you visit a park or facility? Again, multiple choice, but people could respond as many times as they wanted, and you'll see what's really important to bringing folks to the park. So in our 17 or 18 questions, I think we got a really good, snapshot of the public and what they're enjoying today, but also what they're looking for in the next 10 years. This one as well, I think, is important, financial models that folks supported. And so again, people could respond to A, B, or C. It wasn't just select one, respond to what you would support. And so the top one there is no fee or no cost to users. At almost 75% of residents responded that way, followed by financially self-sustaining, basically net neutral. And then the bottom, the least popular, as you may not be surprised, is revenue generating for parks programs there at the bottom. The next chapter goes into existing facilities. Again, we don't know what recommendations to make until we understand the current system, and so we evaluated and visited all 13 of those sites there. And as a part of the TDEC requirement, you'll see, this is just one example for Drakes Creek, but you'll see a spread in the book for each one of the parks, and we mapped it out, but then really that right-hand side is the important piece to them. So we listed all the amenities in each park, and then you'll see a color bullet in front of that. And so it really ties back to sort of that speedometer at the top, if you will, evaluating each amenity, whether it's good, fair, or poor. And that's really what TDEC wants to understand, what condition are your amenities in. And so those colors of the bullet relate back to that. So they wanted to understand the condition. And then really the far right-hand side, we listed in either short-term, which is generally in a 10-year plan, somewhere between 1 and 5 years would be short-term, and then any long-term recommendations being 5+ years on understanding per park with existing conditions, what do we need to do in our facilities. And all of that summarized in the last chapter for the recommendations. All right, and then we dug into benchmarking. So how does Hendersonville, we know how great it is. We heard from the public, we heard from staff, we heard from everybody how great it is, but how do we compare to others, right? We just generally want to know, are we on pulse? Are we providing a great service, a great level of service for our community? And so we looked at what we call peer communities. So we handpicked with staff's strong input as to what those communities should be. And so you'll see some charts throughout. It's got Hendersonville there on the left. Coppell, Texas was selected as a very similar situation geographically as a suburb of a major city, but also population size, so a lot of similarities. And then we have 2 Tennessee based on population comparisons. Again, regional, comparisons are important. We don't want to be, dreaming big from somebody in some other state that's got funding that we'll never come close to. So we looked at Johnson City, again, a comparable population, as well as Smyrna, more regionally located here in Middle Tennessee. And so those were what we called peer communities, and we evaluated or compared Hendersonville regarding total acreage, park acreage. We looked at how many of outdoor amenities each of those had. We looked at the way they were communicating to the general public, again, to maybe find any gaps that Hendersonville might have in sharing how, what parks are doing or what's out there and being offered. We compared staff numbers, we compared operating budgets, and then we also compared, and really for more of an FYI for staff was what maintenance standards are out there. Again, gleaning that information from our peers that we could use. And then, so those are what we called peer communities, and then we also dug into national standards. So NRPA refers to National Recreation and Parks Association. So it is really just a database of, again, any department across the country can submit their data, and I know Andy submitted his this year. So the more data they get, the better the data, right? And so we were able to select essentially the population category that we fall under, and we looked at annual budget, operating budget, acres of parkland, and staffing. Again, just to make sure we're not missing anything. How do we compare nationally based on our similar population? And so you'll see the chart there on the right is that national, how does Hendersonville compare to everyone else average across the country in our population range. The next chapter is regarding staffing. Again, we compare it to the national average. The staff currently here has 13 full-time equivalents. You'll see that used several times throughout the chapter. Essentially, that's us adding up all the total hours worked by both part-time and full-time and doing some quick math on what is a full-time equivalent. If they're working 40 hours a week, regular hours throughout the year. So we have 30 full-time equivalents here. Again, not only did we hear it from the civic groups that are working with staff on a daily basis, but also overwhelmingly from the public survey, very positive remarks. Staff's great to work with. The facilities are beautiful. Of course, we've got, trash over here or, frustrations or concerns, but again, we are doing a lot of these master plans, and this is, again, not biased, but a lot of positive feedback from staff. It was hard to find some constructive criticism to pull out and put in the plan to have them work on. Again, a challenge that a lot of folks across the state are feeling, especially here in Middle Tennessee, growth. We can't keep up with the growth, right? The funding is not there, the staff's not there. We're having all these people move in, and we just can't keep up. So a lot of our parks are overused. Again, that goes a little bit back to, we see trash in the trash can, et cetera. Like we have a lot here. It's almost a positive, if you will. The parks are being used, and ultimately, because of COVID, coming out of COVID, really overused more so than in years past. So we did some comparison there, made some recommendations with adding staff. We looked at any technology that we could help staff be more efficient and listen to them in all of our interviews. We interviewed Jeremy and all of his staff, and what could we be located in different areas? Could we have new equipment? What is it that y'all need? And all of that's in that staffing chapter on how to improve their efficiency. The next chapter is programming. So essentially, what is the department providing? And again, this was another checkbox for TDOT, or TDEC rather. We had to list there on the left-hand side, we've got all the programming types nationally, and then again, communities of similar size, how many of them offer that, and then whether Hendersonville does or not. So again, just kind of a pulse on what others are doing, room for growth or improvement moving forward. The table there on the right-hand side at the top is how many programs are either growing, mature, or declining. And again, a great percentage of growing, which is great. However, these do require probably staff's largest amount of time. If you're growing, you're trying to build on it, improve it, so that does require a lot of time. A lot of great mature established programs, which is great to see, and very, very, very few declining programs. So I think that's, again, a testament to staff hearing and listening to the community on what they're wanting to see, and really providing programs that are important, again, evolving as new things become more popular and adapting, really, especially in COVID times as well. And then the one on the far bottom right, again, another way we looked at programming was age group. What ages are we providing programs for? A lot there in elementary, tween, and teen ages, young adults, some room for improvement there with kind of the preschool age. We could potentially add some. Again, are our resources limited with maybe a location to host those? And then seniors are a very small percentage. Y'all are unique in that you have a senior center that is not, specifically within the city per se, but maybe that's, that audience is being served there. So not that those all need to be equal, but again, just evaluating how programming is serving the community. And then finally, financial analysis. We evaluated it according to NRPA there, where y'all are doing a lot, really making a big impact in the community and beyond, regionally, statewide. One of the only rugby fields, if maybe not the only one in the state, and doing a great job with limited resources. Again, I enjoy doing Parks and Rec work because it is a bunch of very, very passionate, creative people. It's usually at the bottom of the chopping block, and they get sort of what's left over, and they make do and provide the community, and really this speaks to that. The large chart, again, when we looked at our peer communities, we broke it down. You can see how, again, there are some nuances. Different communities track their funds in different ways, but you can see if another community is utilizing grant money or had a large capital project, etc. But just to see where Hendersonville falls amongst its peers is a good snapshot there. And then really the implementation plan takes all of this and rolls it into, all right, what do we need to do over the next 10 years? And I will say there's a lot in there, but TDEC said themselves, if you're ever going to ask for grant money, it has to be in here. So you may see some things that may not happen for 15, 20, 30 years out, but if you ever want to be able to fund anything with their money especially, but it really, any grant money, it really needs to be in here. And so hopefully y'all see, we've listened to the civic groups, to y'all, to the public and staff, and see really any needs identified in this implementation plan, versus feeling, man, we're doing a really crappy job, and we look at all this that we need to do. This is, again, just building off the great level of service that you have now, and again, just kind of any future project that could ever be is listed in here. And so we've broken it down. Recommendations for existing parks. Again, if you remember the chapter, we talked about all the existing facilities, and we had that right-hand gray column. All those short and long-term recommendations are rolled into here and summarized. And again, I think it's important to understand with a plan, it doesn't just sit on a shelf. Hopefully after July 13th, and he doesn't say, all right, good job, way to go, and put it on a shelf. I hope and have confidence that he's going to use that. And I think a piece of this plan is understanding there's generally a cost to it. Again, this is very high level. We did not go into any sort of engineering. I know staff had, cost estimates that they provided, but generally it's a very high level, master plan level cost. But also, what are potential funding sources? Could we submit on a grant for this, or could we put it in the CIP, or could we, partner with another organization to make this happen? And so I hope that's part of the implementation of the implementation plan, is recognizing those potential funding sources. So we broke it down: existing parks, new facilities. We identified a few of those. New staffing or staffing needs, equipment needs, et cetera, and then ultimately any programming needs, all kind of separated out into different sections of the implementation plan. And again, we won't go into all of these details, but each one of these are essentially those. And that's all I have. So hopefully some questions.
The question,
Yes, sir.
is there any way, like yearly or 5-yearly or
Yes.
what, any way that we can track this to see how we're doing?
Absolutely, and also a requirement, great question. TDEC is now requiring, as a part of this mandatory master plan now, you have to update it at least every 5 years. So we would recommend, again, like any plan, like the ADA transition plan or your land use plan, it should be a living document. Staff should do an annual retreat or quarterly or however they choose, to where we're checking it off, or we've heard a really big need or something new's come to town and there's something that's not even on our list and we need to include it. And so absolutely, a good plan is a living document.
Exactly. Okay. Questions? It's very well put together.
Thank you.
Very, very well put
Thank you.
together. And I just, I hope that we can, I know this is redundant, but I really like to know where we are, because we being the park system, and you have to give the staff the credit,
Sure.
have grown in leaps and bounds over the last little while.
Yep.
And I've made mention of hotel spaces, and I've made mention of, I've also made mention of the fact that, we talk a lot about the impact that our tournaments have on the individual people
Yep.
do that too.
Yep.
Because they do that. So, any other questions?
I have one question and it's curiosity. On page 89, the total capital budget's listed down there under Smyrna, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. It says includes impact fees.
Sure.
What are those impact fees, and what is there any way of knowing how much of that's impact fees? And
We did not ask that specifically, but we are also doing their master plan, and I can certainly get that from Director Moss, what that amount is, but essentially that's offsetting it. So any new development coming into Smyrna, they request impact fees, and I don't know offhand what that percentage is.
I can speak to that just
Yes, sir.
high level. If a city has official impact fees, and the mayor is here, you correct me if I misstate this, please. If a city has official impact fees, a large portion of those usually go to parks by rule of the impact fees. In our city, we have what I would say is negotiated fees. I don't want to use the term impact fees, but our staff has been able to work with developers over the years to negotiate fees per lot built. And those fees have typically gone directly to impact the area where the new development comes, if that makes sense. Whereas if you have voted in official impact fees, you are tied down to, it has to go to X amount to parks, X amount to public works, X amount to different things. If that, I hope that, Mr. Brown or Mayor, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but over the years, that's what I've heard. We've had a lot more flexibility as a city, honestly. It hasn't all gone to parks always. People have donated parkland, they've done different things, but we've had a lot of flexibility over the years with the way we've done it, whereas new development has been able to help the certain areas where those things have been developed in.
Yeah, I look forward to meetings where I don't have to speak.
Sorry, I didn't mean to, I think I did pretty good. But
Yeah, you did.
I can't help myself. State your name, please.
I'm Mayor Jamie Clary. I typically watch you all on computer, don't see you live. You look much better looking live, to be honest with you. So the impact fees are determined based on what your infrastructure is today. And then the fees are set to maintain that level. Obviously, we have a high level of parks. Some cities might not have that higher level. It's police, fire, roads, and parks are the 4 areas you can spend those in. So if our parks are up here, police are down here, fire's here, roads are here, we've got to maintain that level with those impact fees. So that's why we end up a little bit higher on the park side.
Thank you, sir. I knew your name, by the way. So. Is there any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve this master plan as written?
How do we need to state the motion?
I just think it would be a motion to accept the master plan as written.
Your motion would need to be, you recommend to BOMA to adopt the
Oh,
master
okay.
plan.
That's what he said, yeah.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, you want to state the
Yeah.
motion, too?
I'll make a motion that we recommend this, this plan, this into BOMA for recommendation to approve, adopt, excuse me,
Very nicely put.
with a little help, yeah.
I have a motion, Mr. Bowler, second.
Mr. Chairman, I was just,
Questions?
real quick, there's been some conversation about the word adopt and accept, and what does that mean? This isn't, the adoption by BOMA does not tie the city down to spending $100 million on park projects. This is different than some other things. The language has to be adopted to satisfy TDEC, but in 5 years, if we haven't got to a certain point on some of these things, that's not necessarily an issue. Just want everybody to be clear about that.
So in your expertise, did Mr. Pike state it correctly in his motion, sir?
I have his motion as a motion to recommend to Bowman to adopt the Parks Master Plan.
Yes.
Very nice. And I had a second by Mr. Bowler. And any more discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed? Thank you, ma'am. That's spectacular. I'm gonna put this somewhere on my coffee table. Very nice. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for coming. Next is, I can't wait for this one, Hendersonville Pig Fest. Mr. Gilly. Sister.
Page 52 through 54 in your packet, Mr. Chairman. We have been having in our park for the past 2 to 3 years an event called the Parking Pallet, that you all are familiar with. One of the main goals of the Parking Pallet founders, Mr. Rick Potter and his daughter Landry, was to eventually see this become a mega monster event. We saw an opportunity as a staff and with them and some of our other groups following the success of some other things going on in the city to put together with the group Eat Hendersonville, the Meat Sweats with Holiday Fest, the Parking Pallet, a barbecue festival that would help raise money for Mary's Magical Place, and combine that with an event at night that we had last year with Holiday Fest to raise money for Christmas for Kids, which is another local charity. You can see the flyer on page 54. I've been living here a long time, and I've never really seen this many, I guess for lack of a better word, powerful groups come together to do one thing. So I'm excited about it. We will have to come back to you all to have approval after we go to the beer board for the beer garden portion of the event. There will be a day event at Veterans Park where we have a barbecue competition with live music, a kids zone, the parking pallet event. We will have live pig races, not people riding on pigs, but actual little pigs racing. I've never seen anything like that, but
No,
I'm looking
I
forward
have.
to it. And then at nighttime, we will have a repeat of the event we had last year with the Hendersonville Hometown Jam and Ultimate Party and Holiday Fest, where we had a barbecue dinner and bourbon tasting and different things going on. I don't know. We've met with these folks now probably 5 times as a staff. The logistics seem to be working out perfectly, so I'm kind of scared by that. But Sumner County Tourism is involved with us as well. I don't know how many of y'all attended the barbecue competition that the Meat Sweats put on in their parking lot over at their restaurant. It was a pretty good, successful event, and this is probably going to take that to the next level plus some. And hopefully it can turn in, things like Memphis in May, and they all had to start somewhere, right? So hopefully this can be something where the maintenance fund at Mary's Magical Place and Christmas for Kids can really benefit from. And I don't know if Dallas or Andrea has anything to add to that, but wanted to bring this to you all for your approval. The date is worked out. We're good on November 6th, and it's going to be a pretty fun day, I have a feeling.
And that motion needs to have the addition of going before the beer board, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
This is kind of like the pork mafia, isn't it? There's a lot of people here, so. Questions of Mr. Gilly?
I just want to make one comment. He is absolutely right. I live out to where they had that barbecue festival. And if anybody drove by there and that one little space, there was
Amazing.
probably 500 people or more in that one little space over there. It was amazing for that.
Great for the pigs, so we need a motion to approve it.
Contingent upon approval of the beer board.
I will hear a motion. I'd like to have it stated, please. Mr. Head?
I'll make a motion that this event get approved pending approval from the beer board for the beer garden and anything else in coherence with alcohol.
Have a motion on the
And
table.
once it's approved, it's brought back to the board here showing that it was approved.
Okay, I've got a first. Mr. Pike is second. Discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Pigs, that's great. That's great. Okay, let's see, photography vendor permits, Mr. Long and Ms. Wise.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a picture-taking policy that's really for our leagues that operate in the park, as well as all of our local leagues like Civitan and Hendersonville Soccer Club and that sort of thing. But we've come across an issue here lately where we've had a lot of events and tournaments come before us, wanting to have a photographer set up as a vendor, and that's caused a little bit of stress for some of the employees in the office that handles the picture policy permits. So what we're doing is asking if we can consider those vendors for special events, the photographer vendors for special events to be considered just like any other vendor for a special event, like food trucks or selling bows, ribbon bows for softball tournaments, and that sort of thing. So that would be a $30 vendor fee, and they'd get a permit through the city or through us, just like any other vendor would. And then this policy be just for our league, our league photography. So that's what we're here to discuss and request tonight.
Ms. Wise, do you have anything to add to that, ma'am?
Just that I think it's a great idea.
Need to get a bigger chair. All right, question.
I have a question.
Fuller?
The photographer is going to be associated with a specific league, right? This is not an individual that says, hey, I want to come take pictures of the,
Yeah,
you see where I'm going?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, this is a, for us, we put out a bid, a request for bid to take our photos as well as any of our other leagues. The tournaments, they'll go out and select a vendor to be their photographer for their special event. So they would have to still go through the same process as any other food vendors with insurance and that sort of thing to be the official photographer for those events.
But I can't come to the office and pay a $30 fee and say, I would like to have a license to photograph?
No, the tournament has to request it. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. And that's the same thing with food trucks. Like a food truck can't just come to our office and say, we want to serve in the park this weekend. The tournament has to say, we want this food truck as our food vendor.
So you're referencing to, like, for example, baseball tournament, team comes, the tournament brings in a vendor that sells the team photo on the plaque. That's what this is in general to cover.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, we've had the situation come up 3 times in the last month. And they show up to the tournament requests on Thursday night or Friday, and the tournament starts Friday night, so we're having to scramble to go through the process, which is a little more lengthy than what it would be just to issue a permit for a food truck. So.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve as Mr. Long has laid this out.
I'll make that motion to approve per what Mr. Long stated.
Mr. Head, second. Covering my bases. Mr. Bennett was second. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you, Mr. Long, and a little bit of Ms. Wise. Okay, and then we have the added to this is Trilax. Greg? There's Greg. What's your name, sir?
Yeah, Greg Mitchell with Hendersonville Lacrosse Club. So this event that we're proposing having is more of a community relations event. We've guessed that probably 9 out of 10 kids in our area have absolutely no clue what lacrosse is. They just know that it's a funny little sport where guys carry a stick with a little white ball and a helmet, and if you don't move fast enough, you'll get whacked. It's pretty much it. So what, and Mike, you know. You know too. And so what this event is designed to do, and we've done this probably 2 or 3 other times over the last 7 years, where we have just kind of a free event where we invite kids out to just try it. We provide the sticks, we provide the balls, we just ask that they come with a smile, shorts and sneakers on, and kind of get prepared for the next hour and a half to learn some of the basics of lacrosse, how to hold a stick, how to run with the stick, how to protect yourself. There won't be any type of competition associated with this in terms of the kids expending any type of energy, because obviously we're there to teach them the basics, so there won't be any 2-on-2 or 3-on-3 type of activity that could cause a kid to get injured. We're pretty much just saying, okay, this is what you do, this is how the sport works, this is how you shoot, and then we'll go from there. This has been kind of the main vehicle that we've used to recruit kids, basically, because obviously we're not in the schools, so we're kind of, our outreach is organic. We through word of mouth, through kids, and through parents. So that's what this event will do for us.
Greg, are you going to use your existing coaches to kind of teach this? Have you got, how are you going to handle that?
Yes, so we will have our existing coaches and also our boys. Some of and I forgot to mention that, yes, in years past, we've invited the high school members from the high school boys and girls and the middle school boys to come out to help with this. They love it because they bring their friends, and it turns into just one big old giant fun afternoon or time spent at the park. So, yes.
I'm assuming you have already been with the staff and got all the stuff together?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. And insurance and the whole thing? Yeah. Okay. All righty.
Oh, and also, I should add, what we've done in the past, we will have a disclaimer that each parent will sign, kind of releasing us and the city from any type of death or bodily harm.
Question? Mr. Pike makes a motion, Mr. White second. Any more questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, and I will send a flyer to Dallas and Andy here, they can circulate it among you.
And you got that smile working already, so everything's good. Thank you, Yo. Okay, for our information, civic group discipline reports, historic greenway map size, and special event. Any questions on any one of those?
Andy, can you roll past the historic greenway map sign? Can you provide some context? What exactly
Sure.
that is?
On page 68 in your packet. If you go to what we call the white line at Drakes Creek Park, behind Field 6, that's where the Hendersonville Running Club usually meets to start their events. You'll see a map similar to the one on page 68 that our maintenance staff and Dallas and is it Fast Signs? I think it is Fast Signs. I want to give them credit because they help us out on these. Kind of the background on page 68 is on a map already there. We've added trail post signs that show some mileage markers. We had a local member of our community, Miss Nancy Parker, come to me and ask if we could start to take a look at some of the historical places that are in our park. And she walks every day there, brings our maintenance guys cookies. There's a tree in honor of her son in the park actually there. And she connected me with Mr. Jack Masters and Bill Purrier and Shirley Wilson with the Historical Society. And they kind of identified these land grants that go way back. As you can see, those are actual copies of the original survey done by Daniel Smith on the sign. And we just thought this would be a good addition to the greenway at the park, where people who never have even thought about what went on there for a long time would be able to see. It's kind of marked, those red squares are the kind of historical pioneer type sites. This goes back to before even Mr. Brown was born.
Well, that makes me feel better. He didn't say me.
I love you,
Sorry,
Mr.
Steve.
Brown. I just give those folks a lot of credit for taking the time, volunteering to research this and bring it to us. And I think it's a good addition. I hope we can find some other things to mark within our parks that are similar to this. So I think as soon as we get a chance in the new budget year to get some signage made, we'll get these put up in 2 different places. We'll put one there at the beginning of the greenway and one just over the back soccer bridge as people cross over the first pedestrian bridge and go towards Veterans Park. It'll give you some information if you're so inclined to take a break and read the map there.
Mr. Brown, do you have anything to add to his assertion of age, sir? Yippee. Okay, any more questions on those 4 line items? Thank you. Recreation Coordinator, Ms. Hamlin.
Thank you. The Raptors kickball season ended. The attendance was kind of dwindling toward the end, so we put everyone together instead of having 2 separate groups. Toward the end, we decided to put everybody together into one time frame. I'm in the middle of trying to plan a season-ending party for both kickball and baseball together. We had the special needs fishing rodeo. It was held on the Friday night before the one on Saturday. We didn't have a lot of attendance, but we always have the conflict every year with Vacation Bible School for the special needs group. And then also it rained, so I feel like that always kind of hurts our numbers. Our Kids Club program, we are in week number 3. Everyone has settled into it very well. Darren Frank at Merrill Hyde has been a wonderful host. He's worked with me on everything that we need. We've gone swimming, gone to Gallatin's Miracle Park, has set up movie days in the auditorium at Merrill Hyde. Crafts have been done, including Father's Day crafts. And we will be having our July 4th cookout on Friday the 2nd. We always do a cookout for them. We will be closed on Monday, July the 5th. We are only having 5 weeks this summer due to the need for the building space that last week at Merrill Hyde. But the kids will have 5 great weeks to enjoy seeing their friends, sharing fun times, and hopefully have great experiences as well. And time is flying by because we're down to 2 weeks left. I mean, you blink and it's gone. The next event will be the preschool track meet. It's coming up on October 17th at Drakes Creek Park. It's for 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. The age is determined as of October 31st of that same year. 3-year-olds will be at 1 o'clock, 4-year-olds will be at 2 o'clock, and 5-year-olds will be at 3 o'clock. Their check-in time will begin 30 minutes prior to their designated start time. The cost is $20, and registration will begin August 30th. Any questions? Great.
Thank you, Ms. Hilton. Thank you for all your hard work, too. Recreation Coordinator, Mr. Evans.
All right. One, hope you guys got a chance to come out to the concert last week. I'm sure Andy will talk about it, but I thought that was a huge success, not only because showcasing our own natural talent this year, but it is cool to see a lot of people my age there too, as well. So again, good offerings for everybody. Today was our deadline for fall baseball. We have 400 currently signed up. Right around 400, so 34 teams if I had to start right now. So we'll have late registration throughout the week, and then really we'll get it going here at the end of the month, so end of July. So by the time we meet next time, we'll be starting practice for our fall baseball league. We are still currently taking registrations for kickball, so anybody out there, Tuesdays or Friday nights, you can pick your night. It's 2 separate leagues. And then our men's basketball, we've got really, we'll play this Wednesday. We're off next week, and then we got 2 weeks after that. We'll start a tournament. Same with our men's softball. Play tonight. We won't have anything next week, and then we have a huge tournament on the 12th. They're not going to play that week, but we'll start the tournament by the next time we have Park Sport again. So yeah, I mean, really, we'll have a couple of our summer programs dwindling down, but then we'll ramp it right back up for fall. That's really it.
Questions? Thank you, Mr. Evans. Special Events Program Supervisor, Ms. Wise.
All right, I'm not going to go into much detail because June was definitely a busy month for the Parks Department in regards to events and tournaments. It started with GMB having a tournament and USSSA. The Water Warriors had its annual drive-through exhibit that same weekend. The following weekend, as Cindy mentioned, was our fishing rodeo, which had over 100 kids attend that day. A lot of them ended up catching some catfish, I guess is what they stocked the lake with. And somebody even caught a turtle, so who knew? New Creations Church had its kickball game that weekend, along with Game 7, having its first tournament that month. And then we also had the annual 3-versus-3 soccer tournament as well. To wrap up the month, we had Smart Steps had its annual recital on the lake again. Tennessee United had their kids' summer camp. A fishing camp was offered by Bluegrass Adventure Camp. We had another USSSA tournament, and then Game 7 World Series was last week. And then Raise the Praise had their concert on Saturday, along with the rugby tournament. So it was a jam-packed month. Coming up, we have the Freedom Festival on Saturday, so come on out if you're looking for something to do for the holiday. USSSA is having its national championship tournament next week with about 180 teams participating. PGF has its annual championship tournament that following week of July 12th. Fishers of Men has another fishing tournament on July 10th. Bluegrass Adventures Camp will have another fishing camp in the month of July, and then GMP has a few more tournaments to wrap up the month of July. So, a lot going on.
Yes, ma'am. Questions? Thank you, ma'am. Assistant Maintenance, Jeremy Granat.
Good evening, everyone. As you can tell from everything that Andrea just said, park maintenance is involved in all that. So we've been very busy also. It's been a very busy start to the summer. Grass has slowed down due to low rainfall in the past 20 days, so that's actually a benefit with the next couple of weeks coming up. So that's going to help us out. Shelter rentals, that's just seems to be huge this year, and I don't know if that's a coming out of COVID thing and everybody wanting to have picnics, but seems like that has just been such a big focus for us this year, and I just don't remember that in the past, that crossing my mind, that shelters were so highly rented. So it's been a conversation we've had as a staff. We've had several water leaks, irrigation, public water, the last 30 days. Seems like that's been an ongoing thing. Very busy with that on top of all the normal things we do. In late July, you'll see a sign upgrade project starting at Saunders Ferry. Andy had asked me to go through all the parks and determine which park was in the worst shape with signs, and Saunders Ferry by far was that. So kind of got some pricing together on that, and once we can start spending some money in July, I'll be working on getting that started. It's much needed. I'm looking for volunteer groups in the park. Got several projects we could need some help with. So if there's any groups, organizations out there looking for service hours, please contact Jeremy through the parks office. That's everything I got for tonight. Thanks, guys.
Questions?
I had just a real fast suggestion. It's been a week with a bunch of Boy Scouts at Scout Camp out at Boxwell, and was talking to a couple of advancing Eagle Scouts. And I asked them, well, how did you find your project? And they said they went to a couple different websites, a couple different conservation websites, et cetera. And I don't know if we have one or if we can get one, but I think it'd be an amazing opportunity for to promote to Boy Scouts and others to say, okay, if you need an Eagle Scout project and you do something in the parks, can you speak to that? Is that something we do have or can do? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We've done, just in the time that I've been here, we've done 3 Eagle Scout projects in the parks. The first couple I wasn't real involved with, but the last one I was, and I'll tell you exactly what it was. And I would say out of everything, out of a lot of volunteer projects, and especially on Eagle Scout projects, this one I think ranked up there really high. You'll know when you walk into Kids Kingdom, we've got a brick area that you walk into. Over the years, we've had issues with moles. It's the craziest thing. Moles love to get under those bricks because they're full of grubs. And we had done several different projects to try to fix that over the years, and it would hold for a little while, and then they'd come back. And I had a gentleman reach out to me, his son was going to do a project, and he said, I know a lot of times when people want to do these projects, they're set on what they want to do. He said, we're not. We're looking for something. And that was like the first thing that came to my mind. They jumped on it, and it was quite an undertaking. I can tell you it was a lot bigger undertaking than they thought it was going to be, but it was great. It's held to this day, and that's been, gosh, I'm not good with time, but 3 years ago probably. So yes, we do take those groups. We will help facilitate that. There's a lot of different ways we can help with it. And that kind of goes along with that volunteer things I'm talking about. Boy Scout troops are great for that. And like I said, we're looking for some, so definitely help me with that.
Mr. Granat, where do we stand on those park benches?
We stand it, just need to get busy on it. You and I have talked about getting together, and I know it just never works out, but Andy and I talked about it today, actually. It was a conversation we had, so it's there. It hasn't gone away.
Good enough. Just want to make sure it's there. Good enough. Thank you, Mr. Granat. Okay, Assistant Director, Mr. Long.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Adult soccer is winding down. We've got 2 weeks left of that season, and then we'll be pretty much done with soccer for the remainder of the month of July. And then fall soccer begins August 3rd. Tackle football, They've started their community conditioning program. They meet a couple times a week, and then they'll begin practicing July 12th. And then Tennessee United had their camp this past month, and they had 60 kids participate in that. So that's about it for all those groups right now. Thank you.
Questions? Thank you, Mr. Long. Assistant Director, Mr. Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple notes. Hockey has a few all-star teams that are still practicing, and then they'll do sign-ups here pretty soon. Same thing with fast pitch. They've got a 10 and a 12 under team practicing, and some all-star get ready for tournaments. Senior men, which I know you're all excited about, is ongoing. From my understanding, rumor has it that Mr. Bubba is doing some off-season conditioning and getting ready for next year. The process has started for Mr. Bubba, so that's hopefully we'll get to see him back on the field next year. But again, if I'm 65 and over and still playing, that would be great. So give those guys a lot of credit. Civitans, all-star practices, select practices, 13-year-olds and so forth, still going on. Been doing a whole lot, as Andrea said, of tournament scheduling, working with tournament directors. I think Jimmy Head has worked about 1,000 hours in the concession stand the last week or so. The next 2.5 weeks will be day and night. I mean, we usually had tournaments at night, but literally starting Thursday for 2.5 weeks, it will be morning till night, till 10 o'clock, down there with baseball or softball or so forth for 2.5 weeks. The Rhythm, the new Ohio Valley baseball team on Field 3 is doing great. I think they're like 14-2, have good crowds coming out, very positive environment for the community. And like we said, those 3 tournaments coming up the next 2.5 weeks. That's all, Mr. Chairman. Let me know if you got questions.
Questions? Thank you, Mr. Bruce. Parks Director, Mr. Gilly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Keith took one thing off my list. That's good. The full count rhythm. You all should have gotten an email inviting you all to come out for hospitality and to throw out the first pitch. As many members of the Parks Board and the Bowman that shows up, they're going to line all you guys and girls up across the field and throw out all the pitches at the same time to all the players. So that ought to be real good. Get your arm warmed up.
Put in close.
Left-handed, right-handed, both-handed, whatever.
Can we kick it?
But that's been a great addition. Yeah, you can kick it if you want to. You can kick it.
Just a thought.
They'll have a trainer there if you need ice after the game. But, Wade mentioned it. The concert we had, the hometown jam event last week was a great night for a lot of reasons. But I want to give Wade and Kristen in our office a lot of credit. All these things that you saw us post and do, the things on Eventbrite and different things with our Facebook and all the ads and posters and things. Those are things that Wade created. And Kristen does a lot of those things too with flyers in our office, and they probably don't get enough credit. And I want to really thank. That's not really in his job description. I think it is now. We kind of moved it into there, but a tremendous job by them of getting things out to help us advertise things. It's been mentioned the rugby event. I think Mr. Pike, I think you were there. I know Mr. Brown stopped by. It was fabulous. Adult men and women from all over the state were in town. They were parking everywhere within the realm of the park, of course. I don't think they made it all the way into Durham Farms, but it was close. It was a great event. They followed all the rules and policies that I could tell while I was there, and I hope we can get that back. I think it was good for everybody. The Game 7 tournament, World Series, that's something we've had 3 or 4 years in a row. They love coming here. They were here playing till 8 or 9 o'clock last night. I'm not sure where they all ate because of the restaurants having to close up so early, but we handled it. I guess they ate at the concession stand. That's what the newest restaurant in town is, the Drakes Creek concession stand. Always open and always fully staffed. But what I really want to do in talking about those things is thank our maintenance staff, because I'm thanking them for those weeks, but there was times when we had large events going on in multiple parks. The conversations we have about staffing and how to get things covered and cleaned up and get ready for the next day is it's pretty phenomenal what they do. And you're about to see for the next few weeks even them working in split shifts where, you know, some of them come in 6 to 2:30 and some of them come in 3:30 to 11:30. And, you know, those guys don't have to necessarily do that, but they step up and they volunteer to do that because it's the right thing for those events that we have. So I appreciate them doing that, and I appreciate the way they keep our parks looking like a bomb hadn't gone off the next morning when everybody shows up. Andrea mentioned the Freedom Festival. That is that Saturday? Man, Saturday at 5 o'clock is the start time this year. Everyone's welcome. Personally, I expect probably the biggest crowd we've ever had, even though we've talked about limiting crowds and doing things. I just have a feeling it's going to be a large group of people, so I would recommend getting there early. We have so many activities going on. We even have one of the full count games. The rhythm team is playing at 4:30 that afternoon, so hopefully they'll finish right before the fireworks go off. I think that's pretty cool to be having an actual baseball game, America's pastime, during the fireworks celebration. So I hope everything goes well with that. We're working with the chamber to make sure that's a special night this year. It's also the 50th anniversary of the police department coming up, and we'll have a special presentation for them on that night. Don't want to leave out that we've got Big Bubba's Bash coming up on August 18th. We've already had a couple of businesses in the community step up to be huge sponsors of that. I know Bubba's grateful for that. I know I'm grateful for that. I know the Humane Society is grateful for that. It's going to be a great night to bring back an event that's been kind of special to our park for a long, long time, and I can't wait to see all the people out there. And you know, you can watch Bubba and I's promotional videos on. We thought we were pro wrestlers again for a minute. On the.
Were y'all the intern?
Yes, we were the intern. Yes. I wanted two more things. I want to thank our staff for their work on the athletic policy things that you all had in your packet tonight, for going over that. That's been a group effort and a good group effort. You know, it's hard to keep up with all the things that get passed up here sometimes, so it's good to get a little refresh, and we'll be happy to take that to BOMA and get their approval so that we can make them the bad guys when somebody complains about it. Just kidding. We wouldn't do that. The last but not least, Alicia's still here. I want to thank her and her staff, who is not here, but she's here. I want to thank her for all the work she's put in on this park master plan. I don't even know how many times we've met and emailed and called and worked on this. It's been, for me, it's been good not having a lifetime career in parks and recreation necessarily, to have somebody else come in who is what I would say an expert in the field and who's doing the statewide park master plan, to be able to come in and evaluate what we are. It's uncomfortable sometimes to have somebody constructively criticize you, but that's okay. That's what you're supposed to be able to handle that. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate Kimberly Horn and your staff for helping us out. And that is all I have, because the Vanderbilt game is on.
Questions? Round table, we'll start on this end. Mr. Perry? Mr. Bowler?
Got one question. Can you guys remind me of the schedule and process for the Wall of Fame? We looking at anything coming up?
We kind of missed the COVID year on that. I think it's important to give people their due diligence and be able to be recognized, not on a Zoom call. We put in the budget to do it in 2022 and kind of get on an even year schedule going forward. So hopefully in January of 2022 we'll try to accept nominations prior to Christmas and be ready to go after Christmas to have something. We got some people that definitely will need to be recognized. I feel sure about it.
Mr. Pike?
Yeah, I won't be long, because I know the Vanderbilt game's on. Everybody wants to get home to watch that. But I just think this is sometimes when you get comments from the public when you're out, it means more of a thank you than us just thanking everybody, although that's important. To answer Andy's talking about the rugby, I happened to be I didn't go to the game, but I happened to be at a eating establishment and saw a gentleman with a national rugby hat on, he looked like a coach, and just asked him about it. He said that he was so excited about having the fields up here. top-notch over anything they play on, and was so glad that we were having events like that. And I asked him personally about how it was going on over there and things that we were concerned about when we first started doing it. He said, no problems, no issues, it was all fenced in the way it was supposed to be. And it just was all positive things about it. So I had sent an email to Andy earlier about it. He can share that with anybody he wants to share it with, but that and also the concert out there. I had one of my guy who works with me went to the concert. He started immediately texting me when he got out there about how awesome it was set up. When he first saw where the stage was going to be, he wasn't for sure, but he loved it. Was not sure about getting in and out. Had no problems getting out of the park, So feedback like that, I think y'all all need to hear, because it was all positive feedback on both events.
Thought you said you wasn't gonna be long.
I wasn't.
Mr. Bennett?
That's what I was thinking too.
No,
You took
I
a little,
wasn't.
the game's over now.
It is.
No, real quick, and Keith and Andy touched on it, Full Count Rhythm. If anybody has not been to a game yet, you're doing yourself a disservice. It is fantastic. It's a great time for the family, and I hate to correct Mr. Bruce, but they are actually 17-4 and leading their division. So good luck to them, and thanks, guys.
You stand corrected. Mr. Golden? Mr. White? Mr. Head? Mr. Brown?
Always something to say. I just, as your Parks Board liaison, occasionally I will go out and mill around the parks, which I did Saturday. I would like to commend the Rotary group for what I thought was a really clean activity. Parking was good. People were happy. I'd like Mr. Gilly to know that they did try to recruit me. One team did. And I told them that I had retired and retired successfully, and I was not coming back to Rotary. But I did travel after I talked to Mr. Gilly and complimented him. I did travel the rest of the parks. They were full. Parks were full. You couldn't have found a parking place if you wanted to find a parking place. So they were full. Restaurants were busy. Our Parks Department's commended for keeping them that full. Busy week and busy weeks to come. So, but we did have some concerns about rugby. I think those concerns were valid at the time, but I want to tell you, everybody was behaving and in good shape. So, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. You guys all know that I'm pretty big on this discipline thing, and I got to thinking on the way over here. You don't hear about you don't hear much about the ones that don't get disciplined. The coaches and the assistant coaches that go out there, and I've done it, hauling the equipment back and forth and making sure they got water and picking up a kid when he falls down and all of that. We just don't, I can't tell you how much I appreciate what the coaches and assistant coaches, but most of all tonight, I don't know that I've ever heard anybody say it. I want to appreciate the wives of the coaches, because we are an unusual bunch of coaches, and the wives are there. Usually they're carrying the water, and they're there every time, and so I want to, like I said, for the two people that listen to this, I want to say I appreciate the wives that help out in the park as well. So, all right.
There's usually a different name for that. That's called team mom.
Of
If you're
course
the
it
wife, you're automatically the team mom.
Hey, if you don't have a team mom, you don't have snacks. I will entertain a motion. Oh, well, Mr. Bennett's quick and Mr. Pike was second. Okay, we're going to sit and have discussion. No, we're not. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Better not say anything.